In October 1962, the world stood at the precipice of nuclear annihilation as the United States and the Soviet Union locked horns in a high-stakes standoff over ballistic missiles stationed just 90 miles from the Florida coastline. This narrow strip of Caribbean geography became the ultimate geopolitical choke point, forcing superpowers to navigate the terrifying reality of mutual assured destruction while the fate of millions rested on the decisions of a few men. Before the Cold War, Cuba was a Spanish colony for centuries, suffering under the brutal exploitation of the sugar trade until the late 19th century, when the island's struggle for sovereignty began to reshape the entire Western Hemisphere's political landscape. The 1898 Spanish-American War marked a catastrophic shift, resulting in thousands of casualties and the eventual transformation of Cuba into a strategic American protectorate, setting the stage for decades of deep-seated resentment and volatile political instability. By 1959, the Cuban Revolution led by Fidel Castro successfully ousted the US-backed dictator Fulgencio Batista, triggering a radical political transformation that aligned the island nation with the Soviet Union and directly challenged American hegemony. The map of the crisis centered on the San Cristobal missile sites in Cuba, the Jupiter missile installations in Turkey and Italy, and the vast, dangerous waters of the Sargasso Sea where naval forces converged. During the 19th century, Cuba remained a contested territory defined by the 10 Years' War and the subsequent fight for independence, which left the island's infrastructure devastated and its social fabric fractured by colonial conflict. In the 20th century, the island became a playground for American corporate interests and organized crime, fostering deep urban inequality that eventually fueled the revolutionary fervor that brought Castro to power in 1959. By May 1962, Nikita Khrushchev proposed the secret deployment of nuclear missiles to Cuba, aiming to deter future US-backed incursions like the failed 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion while simultaneously seeking strategic parity with American nuclear forces. The rapid industrialization of Cuba's military, supported by Soviet subsidies and trade agreements, transformed the island into a forward operating base for Kremlin influence, sparking intense alarm within the halls of the White House and the Pentagon. Despite intelligence reports of increased shipping traffic, Western policymakers ignored early seismic warnings from U-2 surveillance flights, failing to grasp the true extent of the Soviet buildup until photographic evidence emerged in October. The crisis reached a fever pitch in 1962 when U-2 imagery confirmed the construction of SS for medium-range ballistic missile sites, capable of launching nuclear strikes against Washington, D.C. and other major American cities. Comparing the era of American dominance before 1959 to the subsequent Soviet-aligned period reveals a stark geopolitical shift, moving from a regional trade partner to a frontline combatant in the global Cold War. The human cost of the potential nuclear exchange was staggering, with experts estimating tens of millions of immediate casualties, a reality that forced ordinary citizens to prepare for the unthinkable through fallout shelters and civil defense drills. On October 22, 1962, President John F. Kennedy announced a naval quarantine of Cuba, a strategic semantic choice designed to avoid the legal implications of a formal blockade, which international law would define as an act of war. The physics of the crisis involved the range of SS-4 missiles, which could strike targets within 2,000 kilometers, necessitating a rapid naval response involving 180 U.S. ships to intercept Soviet vessels carrying nuclear materials. The international response was defined by the Executive Committee of the National Security Council, which debated surgical airstrikes versus a diplomatic quarantine, ultimately choosing the latter to manage the escalation levels of the confrontation. History remembers this event through the lens of the Moscow-Washington hotline established in 1963, a permanent communication link designed to prevent the miscalculations that nearly triggered a global nuclear catastrophe. A lesser-known fact is that on October 27, 1962, Soviet submarine officer Vasily Arkhipov single-handedly prevented the launch of a nuclear torpedo from the B-59, refusing to authorize the strike despite intense pressure from his commander. The crisis serves as a permanent reminder that geography and policy choices are inextricably linked. The ability to communicate directly during moments of extreme brinkmanship remains the primary defense against the accidental start of a global conflict. Robert Kennedy and Anatoly Dobrynin negotiated a secret deal to remove U.S. Jupiter missiles from Turkey, a quid pro quo that remained classified for years, illustrating the complex trade-offs required to maintain peace during the nuclear age. The legacy of these 13 days continues to influence modern maritime disputes, proving that even in the age of advanced technology, the human element of restraint remains the most critical factor in preventing the collapse of international stability.